Earlier today, a ceasefire deal was reached in Gaza between Israel and Hamas. Palestinians all around the world, in fact, people all around the world are celebrating what seems to be the most promising moment, certainly the most promising day in the 400 plus days that there has been a war in Gaza, as they officially say, as we say, a war on Gaza and a genocide in Gaza. Palestinians are celebrating because Hamas and Israel, with the support of Qatar, with the support of the United States, have come to a truce date. Now, many of you, when you think of a ceasefire, you think of a stoppage of war immediately. You think of immediate peace. No, that'd be too easy. No, the truce is set to take place on Sunday, January the 19th. Now, that's important because this isn't just a technicality. This isn't just a legal maneuver. Israeli forces are continuing to attack right now. In the Gaza Strip, at least 30 Palestinians have been killed in the enclave since the agreement was reached. Hamas official Izzat Reshek says that the deal reached in the capital of Qatar, Doha, meets all of the Palestinians group's conditions, including the full withdrawal of Israeli forces, the return of displaced people to their homes, and a permanent end to war. This sounds great. What's interesting, and what my next guest and I are going to talk about, is how we got here. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, he hit the stage, he hit the dais, and he wanted to thank some people for making this happen. He wanted to thank U.S. President Joe Biden, which he kind of has to do. But he also thanked President-elect Donald Trump, and according to sources, it's Donald Trump who made the phone call that got this across the finish line. Not Joseph Robinette Biden, but Donald John Trump. And so that will be interesting to follow. It'll be interesting to make sense of. But in the meantime, I want to bring in my guest, one of my favorite people. She is a journalist. She's a Palestinian. She is a person who has followed this very closely at the policy level and at the personal level. Rula Jebreal, thank you so much for joining us in Night School.
Thank you, Mark. So good to be on with you on a night like this where, yes, there's 30 people who are killed, but we have hope tonight that maybe the missiles will stop raining on Palestinian children, at least from Sunday.
That would be an amazing feat. How surprised were you that we reached a ceasefire at all, and certainly at this particular juncture in history?
I actually wasn't surprised, Mark. I've been recently in Doha, and I've been talking to diplomats from the region who were telling me 3 things. One of the things that told me that Trump wanted a win from day one. He wanted a win. He's a transactional president, and he wants to get in and take off this topic from the table. He doesn't want, there's 2 things. There's America first idea that we don't want anymore to pay $18 billion to Israel or Ukraine, etc. So there's this component, and there's advocates in this component in his surroundings. One of them we know very well, Tucker Carlson. Others obviously have different ideas. But the interesting thing that for almost 8 months, since May, Joe Biden would not put pressure, refused to put any pressure on Netanyahu and his government because he wanted not to tarnish his legacy. Joe Biden is ideological. He is a really committed Zionist. He wanted to exit this, the White House as the most pro-Israeli president who did everything in favor of Israel. That was what he cared about. He didn't care about the Palestinian being slaughtered or starved to death. He didn't care about any of that. So he was unwilling to put any pressure. And actually, Arab diplomats were telling me that the only time there was any pressure is when Donald Trump sent to Israel from Doha, Steve Witkoff, basically an oligarch, to tell Netanyahu, get this done. And Prime Minister Netanyahu obviously had his series of demands. We will see in the coming days that there's basically a basket of gifts. There's a bag of gifts that he received in order to get this ceasefire deal accepted in Israel. Remark, apologies.
Sorry about that. I said it's been my argument to my audience and publicly, that Donald Trump didn't want to see a long-term deal made before he got close to office, and neither did Netanyahu. That this was always prearranged to make Donald Trump look like a hero, to make
Yes.
Joe Biden look feckless and weak, and to get Netanyahu some extra goodies for holding out long enough to make Donald Trump look like the superhero. Am I being am I a conspiracy theorist? Or am I being
No,
too
no,
cynical
no,
here?
no. No, actually, you are very accurate and you read the reality for what it is, not in the delusional way that people in DC and in New York are
Mm.
trying to sell this as an achievement for President Biden. It's not I mean, let's be clear. Uh, President Biden's legacy is written in Palestinian children's blood. His legacy will be the genocide in Gaza. Whatever he wants to talk about in the future, whatever he achieved, people will always judge him for his failure, for his catastrophic Middle Eastern policy that put a target on America's back, that slaughtered and led to the mass slaughter of Palestinian children, that ultimately isolating Israel and got Israel to be now accused and on trial for plausible genocide. So, but Donald Trump also, we understand that Donald Trump received $100 million from Miriam Adelson during the election campaign. He promised her the annexation of the West Bank. He used that card, obviously, but also he used other elements in the negotiation with Netanyahu. Netanyahu understands that Trump is unpredictable. Um, he understands that he cannot play games with Trump the way he really played games with Biden. He wanted certain things. My understanding, he got most of the things he wanted. There's no sanctions for any terrorists, Jewish settler terrorists in the United States. There's no sanctions on the ISO, which is the company that created Pegasus, which is the surveillance technology that led to the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. There's no whatsoever. He will be also getting all kind of goodies. Above all, the annexations of territories and theft of land in the West Bank. And my understanding, he also is getting some kind of deal with Saudi Arabia. We don't know how this will play itself out, but he was promised that Trump will pressure the Saudis to get some kind of normalization deal. Well, that's a separate topic. My understanding, the Saudis are unwilling at this juncture to do anything unless there's something for the Palestinians on the table as well.
So you raised a couple of really important points, and I'm glad you did, because when Kamala Harris was running against Donald Trump in the presidential election, the argument was Kamala and Joe Biden, they've obviously been awful on this issue. They've prosecuted a genocide, they've at least supported a genocide. Donald Trump can't be any worse. But it seems like maybe he could be. I mean, when you talk about annexation of the West Bank, which was not on the table for any U.S. president in recent years. In fact, we've been, as a country, chiding people, criticizing people, sanctioning people, or at least abstaining from protecting Israel when they do talk about settlement expansion or violate international law. But now Donald Trump, there's a lot of talk, as you pointed out, that maybe there's a backdoor deal to support the annexation of the West Bank.
Yes.
How realistic is that? Sometimes Donald Trump says stuff like, I'm going to build a wall between here and Mexico, and it doesn't mean anything. Other times he says things and they happen. Do you see the annexation of the West Bank as a viable possibility?
Sadly, yes, Mark. Not only that, I see also another piece, which is I believe Israel will start exporting its Gaza policy to the West Bank. In the last 3-4 weeks, multiple ministers, including Ben-Gvir, Smotrich, and others, said that for any attack or violent attack from Jenin or Nablus, we will transform the West Bank in Jenin and Nablus the way we transformed Gaza. I must say, I was shocked to my core that basically a doctor, the president of the hospital in Haifa, Rambam Hospital, he is, the head pediatric doctor. He tweeted something and it shook me because it's a hospital where most of my family were born, people who are, my family members work in that hospital. He tweeted and said, you celebrated our massacre and now you get the Nakba. And then he tweeted the picture of Rafah. So we are seeing in the Israeli society elements where Palestinians are totally dehumanized, and people who are reasonable, normal people actually wants a genocide, wants ethnic cleansing, not only in Gaza, but in the West Bank and later on in Jerusalem.
One of the things we see is actually a delay in the start of this peace deal to Sunday.
Yeah.
We're seeing lots of violence going on in Gaza right now, specifically lots of Palestinians still being killed. My concern is that with that type of violence, there will be resistance and there will be retaliation. And I'm not worried about the resistance. I support the resistance in arms in self-defense. What I'm concerned about is that the ceasefire will get off to a rocky start and that Israel will use Palestinian resistance as a pretext or an excuse to say they violated the deal and we're off and running back to where we were again. Like, how likely is it that this will stick?
Highly probable what you're saying that materialize. I just want to cite that not only the massacre in Gaza is happening now as we speak, as a, Israel wants to seal this deal with Palestinian blood. For them, for the Israelis, the idea of victory is not defeating Hamas. Just to be clear, it's how many Palestinian can they kill? It's the whole idea of thinning the population, the whole idea of creating disastrous condition to force Palestinians either to flee or to create, or to encourage them to immigrate. It's the sentence that Minister Smotrich used very often. But as we speak now, tens of settlers actually stormed tonight, again, a village in the West Bank called Hawara, and they're protected by the Israeli army, and they're now burning homes and attacking Palestinians. So we're seeing that the settlers are basically another arm of the government trying to provoke violence, so the army can say, oh yeah, Palestinians throw a rock on us, or somebody fired a bullet, we have to exterminate them. And yes, I fear like you that this will be, the Gaza doctrine will be implemented elsewhere.
One more question for you. You talked about, on this matter, I have another question for you. You talked about Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia, to their credit, and there's lots of things that are critical of Saudi Arabia, but they've stood pretty tall the last year. Yes. No normalization, no deals until there's one, until this genocide is over, but two, until as you said a moment ago, up to the Palestinians have something substantive on the table. What will it take? What does substantive look like at this stage? What will make Arab countries, or maybe even Palestinian leadership, feel like there is something tangible on the table and not just another Oslo, not just another promise, not just another kick the ball down the field, but something real?
Look, I agree with you. I give credit to Saudi Arabia. I think their foreign minister has spoke eloquently and clearly, and their leadership. I mean, I believe MBS, who said that Netanyahu need to be held accountable for the crimes that he's been committing in Gaza. I mean, one thing is clear, Mark, the whole region, including Saudi Arabia, that is a leader of that region, understand that Israel represents at this point a threat, not only to Palestinian survivors or the Palestinian existence, but they're a threat for the stability of the entire region. Look what they've done in Syria. Look what they've done in Lebanon. Look, they unleashed violence. There's mass radicalization, as Christopher Wray, the head of the FBI, said. You can see that they have no care for the stability or security or safety of anybody, including their own citizens who are there willing to shoot unarmed as they escaped from Hamas without a shirt, holding white flags. So the Arab region understood what Israel stands for today, which is domination, violence, but not only dominating the Palestinians, they want to dominate the region. So I think the Saudis, for the first time, probably in a long time, they saw clearly what the Israelis stand for. However, the Saudis also will negotiate hard with Trump. They will try to extract something for themselves, probably some kind of an arms deals, nuclear technology, etc. But also, I am confident that they will try to extract sovereignty, statehood for the Palestinians, and in turn, they will put, and this is, I am sure of that because I've been talking to many diplomats around the region, they're willing to guarantee, take from Netanyahu what he, his propaganda tool, like our security. They're actually willing to put troops in Gaza to guarantee securities. They are willing to rebuild, to reconstruct. So they are going to dismantle his propaganda, saying, well, I don't know if you remember Ayman Safadi, who stood up at the United Nations. He's the Jordanian ambassador. And he said, we 57 Arab and Muslim countries are willing to guarantee Israel's security on one condition, and the genocide and the occupation, comply with international law. And Netanyahu basically dismissed him. I think Trump also wants something else we are not mentioning. He wants a Nobel Peace Prize. And exactly. And he thinks that Palestine will give him that.
He, I hate to say it because he doesn't deserve it, but he just might get it. I mean, when I look at who's gotten peace prizes before, I mean, Obama's gotten one while dropping Predator drones on people. It's not hard to get a Nobel Peace Prize. And when he brought Jared Kushner around last time, when he brought the Abraham Accords around, it was very clear he was thinking about legacy. He wants to say, I created peace in the Middle East. You're right.
Yeah.
Yes. And the optics of this, it's really nasty underneath, but the optics of it are going to look good to a lot of people, unfortunately.
Look, Kissinger got it, and we know what he did.
Oh my God.
Exactly. And okay, if Donald Trump can deliver on Palestinian statehood, sovereignty, I would lobby for him to get a Nobel Peace Prize. If he can get, he can end the military occupation that's been choking, decimating our lives and our existence for 58 years. Well, if he can get them to withdraw from the occupied territories, all of them, to the 67 borders, I would be the first one to champion for him to get the Nobel Peace Prize.
Look, right. If there's a free Palestine, a legitimately free Palestine with contiguous land and potable water and sovereignty and security, I'll fly there and hand him the award.
But look, and you know what? Whatever reasons, whether selfish reasons, transactional reasons, ego reason, I do not care. I want this mass slaughter to end. I want babies in Gaza not to be butchered anymore. I don't want to see beheaded babies starving to death. I don't want to see the bodies of people, dismembered and burned alive. We cannot see anymore these kind of atrocities in the 21st century. Gaza has been transformed into cemetery for children, but also it's a graveyard for international humanitarian law and international legality and the reputation of Western democracies.
Absolutely.